So the challenge was to try to grow a single word and a gesture into more meaningful communication. And this tool was extremely helpful because it reinforced the structure of the meaningful communication. So when he was working with this tool, it was a very consistent format. It was a format he loved because he learns extremely well on the electronic interface. It's the same every time. It's very consistent. He can have control over it. And so he would go to that electronic interface and he'd say, if I say this, I get that. And so now we could build appropriate or neurotypical communication structure through this interface. And he was not threatened by the interface. The interface didn't interfere with him desiring other things he desired. So it really was a great tool to help him communicate. It leveraged something he loved, this electronic interface, with what we wanted to go, so it was seamless and simple. Well, the difficulty with any autistic child is effective communication. In the case of our son, his communication is really pragmatic. Up until age 2, he was a perfectly typical child, and then he just stopped speaking, stopped making eye contact, stopped playing, disengaged from us completely, and really never re-engaged until after he hit age 7. And at that point, our communication with him was one word phrase and then physical manipulation. Hand us a bottle of Coke and say Coke. Hand us some food and say bacon. Hand us a bag of potato chips and say chips. And that's it. But that's not effective communication. You can't build a conversation around that. And if we can't build a conversation, we can't grow his ability to communicate. And so it was always a struggle for us to be able to get past just the very simple one word, meet my needs kinds of communication to get to a more functional level. What's been really nice about this particular app and interface is that this interface really works well for my son, and I've seen it work well for other autistic children who've been in similar environments. It's a very familiar, consistent interface. So my son loves the iPad. He takes to the iPad, taps away on the iPad, and he can control it. So it's very consistent. He can control it, but yet at the same time, it gives him a standardized, consistent, neurotypical way to communicate. So what we found is that he was building real sentences with the SPEAKall interface that we weren't getting no matter how many times we mimicked the behavior we wanted. It wasn't the same as this interface that he could control. And so it helped us to build in him full sentences, more meaningful, more interesting sentences, which led to more meaningful, interesting communication. It was teaching him the mechanism of communicating in a truly verbal way, and that was really valuable for us. He expects that when he speaks to us and tells us what he wants or tells us what he thinks, that we're going to respond to that matters now. So that's a nice expectation. He expects when he says, I want this, or please don't say that, or whatever it might be that he communicates, that has value and meaning and that we're going to respond a certain way. And that was not previously what we got. Previously, we would get hauled to the refrigerator and he would stand there and say the same word over and over and over and eventually keep pushing us at the refrigerator. Now he expects when he speaks that what he has said is all that needs to be done to cause us to respond in a way that he likes. And that's a terrific improvement. So we're very pleased with that. Well, when David started using this interface, his communication was really just one or two short phrases. Whenever something was negative, he didn't want it, he'd just say, all done, Daddy sing, all done, whatever the little occurrence was that he didn't want to continue. And now we'll get a sentence, I want you to stop singing. I don't want you to sing. I want you to turn the radio off. I want some Coke. I want more bacon. So we get communication at a different level. What we previously got was the same, I don't want, or no sing, no bacon, no, 2 words for everything. Now we get real communication. And that's a big jump. That's a big jump. And it happened very quickly and very consistently through this interface. The interface really showed him this is the way to do it. And it was wonderful that the interface could provide that sort of structure for him. He's been working with it for about a year on and off. When he was working with it in a very dedicated fashion during the academic year, things really moved along very, very quickly. And then when we moved, what we found is when we moved away from it, he slid back. And then when we reintroduced it, now he comes right back up and we start to get the communication at a higher level again. And so he didn't slide all the way back, he slid back slightly. So what we need to do is continue to use the interface until he's really ready to set it aside. And I fully expect at some point he's not going to need the interface anymore because his communication is going to reach a level where he can go out. But until that point, this is a very effective tool to get him where we need him to be. If I could add anything else about this interface and the experience working in this, what really impressed me was the collaboration between the engineers and the social scientists or the health scientists, the people who understood the communication challenge and the people who understood the technology coming together. I think that this interface is where a lot of advances are going to occur. And it seemed to me to be very effective, very ingenious. And so I appreciated that these two groups of people could come together and do something that's going to work for a large number of people.